The farmer is shocked to see the disabled beggar take her daughter to an interview. The sun poured over the city like liquid gold, casting a warm glow on the bustling streets. Bianca clutched Mia's tiny hand, her heart pounding against her ribcage. Today was everything. As they approached the towering glass building of Garcia & Co., a mix of nervous hope and palpable fear washed over her. The reflections on the glass mirrored more than just their images. They captured the shadows of her past. Jake's angry face, the late-night screams. She swallowed hard. Flashes of curious eyes from potential co-workers pierced through her confidence, a reminder of how out of place she felt. Mia bounced beside her, the innocent enthusiasm of a child in a bright yellow dress. They were an unlikely duo, Bianca determined and worn, and Mia her bright spark. As they reached the entrance, a sleek black car pulled up. The driver's door swung open, and a well-dressed gentleman stepped out, exuding. Still, Bianca felt isolated. Each step toward the glass doors felt like she was stepping into an alien world. Miraculously, the interview went well. Bianca spoke with passion, detailing her victories over obstacles, her fierce work ethic shining through. In that cramped, sterile room, she allowed herself to dream. And then it happened. A smile broke across the interviewer's face. "We'd love for you to join us," he said. The words were a balm to her frayed spirit. They were a ticket to a new future. A radiant smile spread across Mia's face, and for a moment the shadows retreated. But utopia was fleeting. Just as she began to settle into her role in the finance department, ready to prove herself, Jake resurfaced. It was a thunderous return that shook her new foundation. She spotted him at the corner of her eye, leaning against a lamppost, his face a storm cloud. "Mummy, who's that?" Mia's innocent question sliced through her heart. Every instinct told her to run, but instead she stood frozen. Was he here to cause trouble? The atmosphere thickened with unspoken dread. And then relief arrived in the form of Alex, the enigmatic CEO, with his calm demeanor and supportive words. He stepped in, shielding her from Jake's glare, igniting a strange warmth in Bianca's chest. But hope mingled with tension. Jake wasn't done. His shadow loomed over her and Mia's bright future. Bianca felt the walls close in. At a crucial meeting days later, she sensed Jake's presence before she saw him. Her gut twisted with fear, a sick lump in her throat. She glanced at Alex, searching his eyes for reassurance. She was terrified, but she wouldn't let herself falter. Then, just as she thought her strength was waning, Alex made an unexpected proposal, offering help and support that tangled her emotions into something complicated. How could she trust him when Jake's dark clouds loomed so close? As they faced unknown trials together, secrets began to unravel, pulling them deeper into a web she never expected. Bianca's world was trembling again. How could she protect Mia and embrace this new friendship while keeping the shadows at bay? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without notice. Just give that red button down below a quick check to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're at it, leave a powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know. Could she let her guard down? But then the fragile piece shattered. A loud thud echoed through the conference room, drawing startled glances from her colleagues. A hushed gasp rippled through the crowd. Bianca turned to see Jake barging in, rage and desperation etched on his features. It was as if he were a tidal wave crashing through her carefully built defences. "Mia!" he shouted, his voice laced with an urgency that sent a shiver down Bianca's spine. Bianca's heart raced. How could he be so brazen? Her thoughts spiraled, battling between fear and anger. She stood to block the view of her daughter, but as she did, the light flickered in the room, casting eerie shadows across the walls. There was a murmur among her colleagues, a mix of shock and curiosity. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Jake snarled, pointing venomously at Alex. The tension crackled like static in the air. "You don't belong here!" "Jake, please!" Bianca's voice trembled as she tried to reason with him, but a sinking feeling twisted in her stomach. This wasn't just a familial dispute. There was a palpable danger. Suddenly, a loud crash came from behind them. A glass panel shattered, sending shards flying across the room. Bianca's breath caught in her throat as chaos erupted. People ducked for cover. Gasps filled the air, and the once sterile environment became a storm of confusion. "Mia!" Bianca screamed, panic clawing at her chest. She turned to see her daughter, wide-eyed and rooted by the door, frozen in shock. The world twisted in slow motion as a figure darted toward her. Then everything changed. A figure dressed in black lunged and grabbed Mia before Bianca could react. "Get down!" Alex's voice cut through the chaos as he moved. It was too late. In an explosive flash, a loud bang rang out, echoing through the room. The air filled with dread and confusion. The world around Bianca blurred. She could only focus on the horror unfolding. Mia's scream pierced her heart like a dagger. Time stood still as the figure turned towards them. Was it a mask? The face was a blank canvas, indistinguishable, but there was something familiar about the stance. Could it be? Another shot resounded, but this time it wasn't directed at Mia. It was a warning, ricocheting off the walls, leaving everyone paralyzed in fear. Then silence fell, thick and suffocating. Bianca didn't have words, only a surge of adrenaline that pushed her to action. "Mia!" she called, but the world around her had turned into a blur of frantic movements and horrified faces. Jake, who had seemed so lost in his rage a moment before, now looked more terrified than ever as he darted toward the chaos. But was he there to help or harm? Suddenly, Alex threw himself in front of Mia, shielding her from the unseen threat. His body taut with tension, he shouted, "Get back! I won't let you hurt her!" Bianca watched, frozen between fear and instinct. Who was this person in front of her? What secrets had he kept hidden beneath that calm exterior? Another ear-splitting bang! And for one heart-stopping moment, Bianca's breath seized. Had that been the end? But instead, the figure faded into the shadows before security rushed in. The chaos shifting again, but with a brand new urgency. Whispers buzzed. Strange glances exchanged. Everything she thought she knew crumbled like dust. The threats, the chaos, the fractured trust. What had just unraveled could fundamentally change everything. As they swept through the room, hunting for the shadow, a thought struck her. The urgency in Jake's eyes, the intensity of Alex's gaze. And deep down, amidst horror and confusion, a fear nagged at her. What if the man she had hoped could be her ally was really tangled in something far more sinister? The air hung heavy with confusion as chaos reigned in the conference room. Bianca's heart raced, her thoughts a jumbled mess. Everything felt unreal. Transparent glass, shattered hopes, and faceless shadows. "Mia!" she screamed again, her voice breaking. Fear gripped her like a vice as she darted toward her daughter. But Alex was already there, shielding Mia with his body. "Get down!" he shouted, his voice urgent and steady amidst the chaos. But the shadows shifted quickly, and in an instant the figure vanished. Bianca felt the world tilt, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Her heart pounded in her ears, drowning out the murmurs of disbelief from their colleagues. "What just happened?" someone whispered, eyes wide as they scanned the room. Just as Bianca stepped closer to Mia, the doors flung open and a second figure dashed in. It was a woman, dark hair, sharp features, and the intensity in her eyes sent a jolt through Bianca's spine. The room fell silent as everyone turned their attention to the new arrival. "Sorry, I'm late," the woman exclaimed, breathless. "I got held up, where is?" But her gaze landed on Jake, and her expression shifted from confusion to fury. "You! What are you doing here?" Jake's anger boiled over. His fists clenched at his sides. "What am I doing here?" "What the hell are you doing here? You're not supposed to be involved." That single comment sent shockwaves through the crowd. Bianca's mind spun wildly. Who was this woman? How did she know Jake? The woman stepped forward, eyes locked on him. "You think you can just walk back in after everything?" "What do you know?" Jake retorted, his voice a mixture of rage and fear. "This has nothing to do with you." "You're wrong. You don't get to put your family in danger," she shouted, pointing to Bianca and Mia. The urgency in her tone was stark. Was Jake a danger to them? Jake's face paled, but it was too late. The weight of that accusation thrummed heavily in the air. Bianca felt her heart plummet. What did this woman know? Before she could process it, the woman pulled something from her pocket. A crumpled piece of paper. "I have proof." "You've been lying to everyone." Bianca's breath hitched. "Lying?" The word echoed disturbingly in her mind, sending her senses reeling. "What proof?" Jake snapped, now visibly sweating. The woman unfurled the paper, her hands trembling. "This is the truth about your finances, Jake. You've been running away from your debts while dealing with much worse." A ripple of gasps spread through the room, echoing like the sound of shattering glass. Bianca's heart raced. Her instinct screamed at her that this was just the beginning. With a sudden surge, the figure disappeared as fast as they had come, leaving behind an unsettling silence. Jake's face twisted in desperation, while Bianca stood frozen. A whirlwind of confusion and realization crashing around her. "Mia!" She turned back, and her daughter was looking at her with wide eyes, full of questions. In the chaos, Alex took a step forward, filling the void left by the sudden absence of the threat. "Bianca, we need to talk," he said. Urgency etched on his face. But her heart sank deeper. Would he still be the ally she hoped for? Were his intentions woven into the same web of lies? The moment hung in the air, fraught with uncertainty. The trust she'd built wavered beneath a new layer of fear. Was this a fight for her future or a fight for survival? "Mia, stay close!" she yelled, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. Outside, a siren wailed in the distance, creeping closer. And then a shocking thought flashed through her mind. Was Alex really a supporter? Or was he, too, part of the deception? Shadows danced around her, and she felt the very ground beneath her shifting, threatening to topple her world once more, with that one question left hanging in the silence. The stage was set for a confrontation she never saw coming. Bianca's heart thudded painfully in her chest. The silence was thick, almost suffocating. Faces blurred around her, each one etched with shock, confusion, and fear. She glanced at Mia, who stood silent, eyes wide as saucers, not fully grasping the chaos that had erupted. She had to protect her. This was her priority. "Mia, baby, come here!" Bianca reached for her daughter, her voice strained, but just then Alex's hand gently landed on her shoulder, grounding her. "Bianca, listen," he started, his voice steady yet urgent. "We need to get you and Mia out of here." But before she could respond, Jake rushed forward, his face almost white with panic. "You don't understand," he yelled, desperation lacing his voice. "You all think I'm the threat here, but I'm not." The tension crackled, a live wire buzzing in the room. The woman, the stranger who had burst in, stepped closer, eyes narrowed. "Really, Jake? You've lied to every single person here, and you call yourself innocent?" "What is she talking about?" Bianca asked, confusion lacing her words. "Mia isn't safe with you!" Jake shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. "She's in the middle of something bigger than you know." Bianca's heart sank. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice trembling. Suddenly, the emergency lights flickered on, bathing the room in red. A loud siren began to wail, shrill and piercing. It felt like the whole world was closing in. And then, a deafening crash! The conference room's glass doors exploded inward as a group of masked figures rushed in, weapons drawn. Gasps paralyzed the gathered crowd. Time froze. Chaos erupted. "No!" Alex shouted, stepping in front of Mia, who clutched Bianca's leg in terror. "Everyone, get down!" His voice sliced through the shock, demanding action. With frantic movements, people hit the floor, but Bianca couldn't move. She was rooted in place, eyes locked on the scene before her. The masked figures swept through the room, their presence a dark wave washing away all certainty. "Mia!" Bianca screamed, her voice tearing through the chaos. She tried to push past Alex, but he was blocking her path. "Get to safety!" Then one of the masked figures turned sharply toward Jake. "You think you can run from this?" The voice was distorted, as if it were being filtered through a machine. Jake backed up, eyes wide, face pale. "I didn't want this. I didn't sign up for any of this." "Too late for that," another masked figure said, stepping closer. They reached into their pocket, pulling out a small device that beeped and flashed ominously. With sudden realization, Bianca gasped. No, it can't be. But even as the thought formed in her mind, the device let out a sharp beep. In an instant, an ear-splitting explosion rocked the building, sending pieces of debris flying, shrouding the room in smoke. She could barely breathe as screams filled the air. "Mia!" she shrieked, panic clawing at her throat. In that moment, everything she thought she knew shattered. Through the haze, she caught a glimpse of Alex standing protectively over Mia, but then he stumbled, his hand clutching his side. Blood blossomed against his shirt. "Alex!" Her heart shattered as she rushed toward him, but the masked figures were converging, ready to escalate the frenzy. Jake's face twisted in horror as he tugged the woman beside him closer. "You have to trust me! We need to go!" he yelled. But the very foundations of trust had crumbled. Did she trust him? Did she trust anyone? Another explosion rocked the ground beneath them, and as the walls trembled, Bianca's world spiraled into uncertainty. She felt fear gripping her heart, but something else stirred too, an unyielding determination. Through the smoke and chaos, would she be able to find a way out? Could she save Mia? As darkness enveloped them, doubt clung to her. Who was the enemy and who was the ally? One question echoed in her mind. Had she truly escaped the shadows? Or had she just stepped deeper into a darker abyss? Bianca's heart raced as the smoke thickened, swirling around her. Chaos filled the air, drowning out cries and screams. Fear gripped her as she thought of Mia. Was she safe? She tried to push past Alex, but he pulled her back, his grip firm and protective. "Stay behind me," he ordered, his eyes darting around the room like a hawk searching for danger. But all she could see was the chaos, the danger looming closer. "Mia," she yelled, panic rising, but her daughter was there, hidden behind Alex's tall frame. Relief washed over Bianca for just a second. Another explosion echoed, sending flickers of dust raining down like confetti in a funeral. The masked figures moved swiftly, voices muffled in panic. Shadows danced ominously around the room. But in that disarray, something caught Bianca's attention. Jake, still agitated, took a cautious step backward, his face a mask of despair. "This isn't what it seems!" he shouted desperately. "We're not enemies!" The woman's eyes flared with anger, her voice rising. "You're lying! You got us into this mess!" She pointed at him, trembling with emotion. Bianca's mind raced. Why was Jake here? What did he want? A whirlwind of feelings spun inside her. Love, betrayal, fear, all became tangled in an instant. And then it happened. A loud crack pierced the air, shattering her thoughts. A third figure appeared in the doorway, emerging from the smoke with a calm purpose. A woman, tall and confident. As her face became clear, Bianca's blood ran cold. It was her sister, Rachel. "No! No! No!" Bianca gasped, realization washing over her like ice water. What was Rachel doing here? They hadn't spoken in years. Bianca had buried that part of her past deep. Where had she come from? "Bianca!" Rachel shouted, her gaze darting to Mia, fear etched on her face. "Get out! They've come for you! The urgency in her sister's voice felt like a slap. Bianca wanted to run to Rachel to understand, but her heart ached too much. "Why are you here, Rachel?" Bianca shouted over the noise, disbelief flooding her voice. "I had to help," Rachel retorted, frustration boiling in her tone. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "You never did." "Mia!" Alex called again, stepping in front of her, grounding Bianca in that moment. But she barely registered. Instead, she felt betrayal twist in her gut. Another explosion erupted outside, the sound reverbing in her chest. Smoke billowed, thickening the air, and voices shouted, but all she could hear were the thundering echoes of her memories, of trust broken, of family lost. Jake suddenly turned, facing Rachel with a piercing glare. "You don't belong here! You're supposed to be out of this!" "What do you mean?" Bianca snapped. "What are you hiding?" In that instant, reality shifted. Rachel's expression morphed from desperation to something darker, a flicker of menace glinting in her eyes. "You really don't know, do you?" she purred, the tension rising like a storm. "This is bigger than all of us. You're just pawns in a game you can't even comprehend." Bianca's breath hitched. "What game?" As the realization sunk in, the masked figures began to retreat, moving with purpose. "They have something much bigger planned," Rachel continued, her voice urgent but almost triumphant. "And you, Bianca, you're at the center of it all." Panic seized her heart, twisting it painfully. She stared at her sister, at Jake, at Alex. Every face she saw held more questions than answers. "Mia!" Her daughter's tiny voice broke through her turmoil like glass shattering. And just like that, the two worlds collided. The air turned electric as everything around her began to unravel. Was this a warning? A revelation? The masked figures faded into the darkness of the hallway as sirens wailed outside, drawing ever closer. It felt like the end. But deep down, Bianca sensed something else. A new beginning lurking beneath the chaos, waiting to explode. Had she stumbled upon a truth that would change everything? Or was she simply dancing with shadows that sought to consume her? Every heartbeat echoed her uncertainty. She had to act. But all she could feel was the weight of her family's secrets bearing down on her, ready to crush her beneath their weight. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, her voice trembling. Would the truth set her free or imprison her further? Bianca's heart raced as the chaos enveloped her. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. But before anyone could respond, another sharp crack echoed from the hallway, pulling everyone's attention. A sudden burst of noise, like thunder rolling in on a stormy day, startled them all. Then, just at that moment, a blinding light flashed through the smoke, illuminating the room as if it were daytime. Everyone shielded their eyes. Bianca squinted against the brightness, fear racing through her body. "What now?" The masked figures hesitated, their movement stiffening. The intensity of their aggression faltered, and then it happened, like a scene from a movie that felt unreal. A figure stepped through the threshold, wrapped in stark white light. A silhouette, padded and toughened, rolling into the chaos like thunderclouds. When the light faded, the new arrival was revealed. It was a man, a familiar face, one she hadn't seen in years. It was Robert, her long-lost father. "Get away from her!" he shouted, and the protective tone cracked in the air. Bianca's heart dropped. "They're after you, Bianca. We have to leave now." "What?" The room revolved around her, feeling surreal. How did he even get here? What was he doing in this madness? Jake turned, eyes overly wide, disbelief flooding his expression. "You! What are you doing here? None of this was supposed to happen." Robert snapped, directing his anger toward Jake. He looked wild, unkempt, as if he'd been through hell itself. "Mia!" Bianca's voice cracked and panic surged through her again. "Dad, where's my daughter?" In the background, Alex was still crouched protectively over Mia, shielding her from the chaos. But now everyone was focused on Robert. "Bianca, we have to go. It's not safe," he pressed, stepping forward. The urgency in his voice gripped her. But a wild mix of feelings churned. The familiar longing for a father. The unexpected fear of exposing her daughter to more danger. "Why should I trust you?" she retorted, eyes narrowing. The confusion twisted tighter in her chest. She knew how he'd hurt her mother, how he had disappeared, forced them all to suffer in silence. How could she just believe he had a plan now? "I can explain everything, but not here, not now." He held his hands up, pleading. The masked figures regained their composure, eyes darting back and forth. The air turned cold. "What are you doing here, old man?" "You're in deep trouble now," one of them growled, stepping closer, a gun raised threateningly. Bianca's breath caught. "Enough!" Robert shouted, and something about the sound of his voice altered the dynamics in the room. It was strong, commanding. "You don't know who you're messing with. Back off!" The masked figures exchanged glances, their hesitation apparent. Then, the unexpected happened. With a sudden intensity, Robert reached into his jacket. The air around them seemed to thicken as he pulled out an envelope. Thick and packed, almost bursting. "Here's the truth," he yelled, throwing it against the wall. Papers exploded out, showering the room like confetti. And as they landed, Bianca gasped. Each page was filled with names and details, accounts and threats. Evidence of Jake's dark dealings, shadowy transactions, and far more sinister stuff hidden under the surface. Jake's face twisted in horror. "Why is this?" he shouted, desperately trying to gather the pages. Bianca's heart raced. Everything she thought she knew began to unravel. "Dad, what have you done?" Before she could process it, Robert shot another glance at her, eyes fierce but wounded. "It's all been connected. I'm not the enemy. You have to believe me." Just then, the air erupted again as the entrances exploded with uniformed officers. Lights flashing and voices shouting. "Get down! Everyone, get down!" The din outside melded into the inside chaos, leaving Bianca reeling. Was her father the savior he claimed to be? Or was he the dark puppet master, pulling the strings all along? Trust unraveled in her chest like a ball of tangled yarn, leaving her unsure of what lay ahead. And in that moment, was Jake still the villain? Or was he another player in a game she could hardly comprehend? The pieces were slipping, shifting, and she stood on shaky ground, teetering between safety and danger. The world twisted around her as fear pulsed through her veins. She was left wondering, with uncertainty wrapping around her like iron chains. Who could she trust now? And what shocking reality awaited her in the shadows? Bianca's heart raced as the chaos enveloped her. "Where do we go from here?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. But before anyone could respond, another sharp crack echoed from the hallway, pulling everyone's attention. A sudden burst of noise, like thunder rolling in on a stormy day, startled them all. Then just at that moment, a blinding light flashed through the smoke, illuminating the room as if it were daytime. Everyone shielded their eyes. Bianca squinted against the brightness, fear racing through her body. What now? The masked figures hesitated, their movements stiffening. The intensity of their aggression faltered, and then it happened, like a scene from a movie that felt unreal. A figure stepped through the threshold, wrapped in stark white light, a silhouette padded and toughened, rolling into the chaos like thunderclouds. When the light faded, the new arrival was revealed. It was a man, a familiar face, one she hadn't seen in years. It was Robert, her long-lost father. "Get away from her!" he shouted, and the protective tone cracked in the air. Bianca's heart dropped. "They're after you, Bianca! We have to leave, now!" What? The room revolved around her, feeling surreal. How did he even get here? What was he doing in this madness? Jake turned, eyes overly wide, disbelief flooding his expression. "You! What are you doing here?" "None of this was supposed to happen," Robert snapped, directing his anger toward Jake. He looked wild, unkempt, as if he'd been through hell itself. "Mia!" Bianca's voice cracked, and panic surged through her again. "Dad, where's my daughter?" In the background, Alex was still crouched, protectively over Mia, shielding her from the chaos. But now everyone was focused on Robert. "Bianca, we have to go." "It's not safe," he pressed, stepping forward. The urgency in his voice gripped her, but a wild mix of feelings churned. The familiar longing for a father, the unexpected fear of exposing her daughter to more danger. "Why should I trust you?" she retorted, eyes narrowing. The confusion twisted tighter in her chest. She knew how he'd hurt her mother, how he had disappeared, forced them all to suffer in silence. How could she just believe he had a plan now? "I can explain everything!" "But not here. Not now." He held his hands up, pleading. The masked figures regained their composure, eyes darting back and forth. The air turned cold. "What are you doing here, old man?" "You're in deep trouble now," one of them growled, stepping closer, a gun raised threateningly. Bianca's breath caught. "Enough!" Robert shouted, and something about the sound of his voice altered the dynamics in the room. It was strong, commanding. "You don't know who you're messing with. Back off!" The masked figures exchanged glances, their hesitation apparent. Then the unexpected happened. With a sudden intensity, Robert reached into his jacket. The air around them seemed to thicken as he pulled out an envelope. Thick and packed, almost bursting. "Here's the truth," he yelled, throwing it against the wall. Papers exploded out, showering the room like confetti. And as they landed, Bianca gasped. Each page was filled with names and details, accounts and threats, evidence of Jake's dark dealings, shadowy transactions, and far more sinister stuff hidden under the surface. Jake's face twisted in horror. "What is this?" he shouted, desperately trying to gather the pages. Bianca's heart raced. Everything she thought she knew began to unravel. "Dad, what have you done?" Before she could process it, Robert shot another glance at her, eyes fierce but wounded. "It's all been connected! I'm not the enemy! You have to believe me!" Just then, the air erupted again as the entrances exploded with uniformed officers, lights flashing and voices shouting. "Get down! Everyone get down!" The din outside melded into the inside chaos, leaving Bianca reeling. Was her father the saviour he claimed to be? Or was he the dark puppet master, pulling the strings all along? Trust unravelled in her chest, like a ball of tangled yarn, leaving her unsure of what lay ahead. The world twisted around her as fear pulsed through her veins. She was left wondering, with uncertainty wrapping around her like iron chains. Who could she trust now? And what shocking reality awaited her in the shadows? But before she could even think, another explosion sounded from the depths of the building. This one different, deeper, as if something ancient and dormant had awakened. The walls shook violently, and suddenly a loud crash came from behind Robert. It was another masked figure, but this time it lunged directly for Robert, and everything shattered into chaos. "No!" Bianca screamed, lunging forward just as the figure revealed a glinting knife, plunging it deep into Robert's side. Time froze. She watched in horror as her father staggered, blood gushing from the wound, his face a mask of pain and betrayal. "Bianca, get her out," he gasped, his voice barely a whisper, crumpling to the floor. "Mia!" she wailed, whirling around to where her daughter stood, frozen, eyes wide. But at that moment, the entire world around her collapsed, and she instantly understood. The man she had called father had tangled them all in this very web of deceit, and everything they had fought for was. And then, the perception shattered as she turned to Alex. His face, usually so composed, twisted in shock. It was almost as if she had never truly seen him. Was he linked to all of this? "Were you part of this?" she gasped. But the very heart of the storm was now unleashed. The masked figure who stabbed Robert stood, gazing at her with a storm of intentions simmering behind those dark eyes. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. It felt like an awakening. Old secrets screamed to be set free, and in the wreckage of that moment, Bianca realized that trust had been the greatest weapon of all, and it was the one thing easily taken away. "Find them! They can't escape now!" the masked figure snarled, the heat of the moment coiling tighter as everything spiraled into darkness. Bianca's heart pounded as the walls closed in once more. The stakes had never been higher, and she faced the truth, not just of her father, but of everything. Who she was, who she could become, and who... The labyrinth they'd travelled twisted again, and she could almost feel the ground quake beneath her feet. What now? The question hung heavy in the air, a weight she'd have to carry as they faced whatever lay ahead. Bianca's heart pounded as the masked figure loomed over Robert, the knife still glinting in the air. Time seemed to warp, each second stretching into eternity. The chaos swirled, smoke thickening and panic rising like bile in her throat. "Mia!" she screamed, but the word felt lost in the uproar, swallowed by the chaos. Tears stung her eyes as Robert crumpled, blood pooling beneath him, crimson against the stark floor. "No!" she cried, feeling as though the ground had opened beneath her. She surged forward, pushing past Alex, who still shielded Mia like a fortress. But her determination met a harsh reality as Jake grabbed her arm, trying to pull her back. "Bianca, don't!" he shouted, panic ricocheting in his voice. "You can't help him!" But how could she just stand there? The woman's face twisted in anger, eyes darting towards the officers pouring into the room. They'd come for the masked figures, but would they also take her father? Then, amidst the chaos, another unexpected twist tore through the air. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that danced around them. The masked figure broke into a laugh, deep and chilling. "You think you've won?" he taunted, his voice smooth, almost amused. "You have no idea what's really going on." And suddenly, the laughter echoed, shifting into a different voice. It was familiar, resonant, a voice Bianca thought she'd been rid of for good. "Surprise, darling!" Bianca froze, her blood running cold. The hallway filled with gasps as the new figure stepped forward, silhouetted by the flashing lights. It was her mother, Deborah, standing there alive and present. A ghost from the past returned. "Mama?" Bianca breathed, confusion and disbelief scrambling her thoughts. Deborah smiled, but it was a cold, calculated smile. Her eyes flicked towards the mask of her old lover. Not her husband, but someone she once betrayed. Someone tied to secrets Bianca never knew. "What are you doing here?" Bianca's voice wavered, her heart clashing between relief and betrayal. "Just taking care of some loose ends," Deborah replied, her tone dismissive, as if it were a trivial task, not the unraveling of a family. But before anyone could process it, she gestured sharply toward the masked figure. "We need to move now! They're about to strike!" Without warning, the masked figure lunged at Robert again, knife raised high, ready to plunge. "You think you can play the hero?" he snarled, but in a flash, a loud crack filled the air. A gunshot rang out, striking the masked figure squarely in the shoulder, causing him to drop the knife and stumble back, his mask slipping to reveal another familiar face, one Bianca had seen only in old photographs and long-buried memories. It was her brother, Nathan, believed dead in a failed mission years ago. "Stay away from my family!" Nathan shouted, eyes ablaze, rage mixing with desperation. The room fell silent, disbelief hanging heavy in the air. Whispers ignited, hearts racing as the truth loomed over them. "Is it really you?" Bianca choked out, her voice barely a whisper. But the camaraderie shared in that instant shattered as Nathan turned towards Deborah, eyes filled with betrayal and pain. "Why did you never tell me?" he demanded, anger clawing through every syllable. "Why?" "Mistakes were made, Nathan. It was for your protection," Deborah spat back, but her facade began to crack under the weight of the day. Suddenly, the officers stormed in, their presence electrifying. "Get on the ground!" they yelled. The tension rose again, drowning out the rhythm of hearts racing. Bianca felt the walls close in as the pieces of her family shattered all around her. Loyalties turned into daggers and secrets danced like phantoms in the air. All she knew was unraveling right before her eyes. Who can we trust? She thought, choking on the bitter taste as the chaos churned. And in the eye of the storm, the question loomed large. Who was the real enemy? Bianca's heart raced as she watched the chaos unfold. The air was thick with tension. Confusion clouded her thoughts, and the realization of betrayal stung in her chest. They all stood on a precipice, teetering between chaos and revelation. "Mia!" she screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat. Suddenly the air erupted. A loud crash came from the hallway, followed by a surge of officers flooding the room. Flashing lights danced wildly, intensifying the atmosphere of panic. Officers shouted commands, their voices cutting through the confusion like knives. "Get down! Everyone, get down!" Bianca instinctively ducked, pulling Mia closer to her. She felt a swell of protectiveness rise as Alex stood unwaveringly between them and the masked threat. But then, out of nowhere, another explosion rang out, shaking the very foundation of the building. The masked figure, reeling from the chaos, seemed unfazed. He spun towards Robert, eyes ablaze with fury as he lunged forward. "You think this is over? You haven't seen the last of me." "Dad!" Bianca yelled, but her father was already collapsing to the ground, pressing his hand against the wound. Blood seeped through his fingers, painting a crimson path across the floor. "Mia, stay close!" Alex shrieked, still trying to shield her from the impending terror. But everything spiraled faster. It was like a movie trapped in chaos with too many moving pieces. Bianca's eyes darted around, searching for answers, any glimmer of hope. But everything felt dark, shrouded in confusion and looming shadows. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out from the now icy silence. "Stop right there." Everyone turned toward the newcomer, staggered breath caught in the throats of onlookers. It was a woman, powerful and poised, stepping in through the shattered doorway as if she owned the storm. Crimson hair flowed behind her like fire. "Veronica!" Jake exclaimed, shock marring his features. Bianca's mind raced, trying to place the name. The pieces didn't fit, but the tension in the room warped into something heavier. "Who is she?" "She knows everything," Jake replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "She's been in the shadows. Our shadows." "Shadows? What?" Bianca began, but Veronica raised a hand, silencing her. "You're all too blind to see the truth," she said, her voice clear and steady. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she revealed a flash drive, swinging it like a trophy. "Everything is recorded. Jake's dealings, Robert's secrets, even your mother's revenge plot." Time froze. Bianca's breath hitched, eyes narrowing. "What are you talking about?" But before anyone could respond, Veronica moved swiftly. In one fluid motion, she inserted the drive into a nearby laptop, illuminating the screen with a matrix of data far beyond comprehension. The room turned silent, everyone frozen as the screen flashed shocking images, transactions, connections, and a list of names, all linked like an intricate web. "Your parents? They're tangled in something so much deeper than you know," Veronica continued, cackling maniacally, her eyes locking onto Bianca's with an intensity that made her pulse race. "The reason your father isn't dead? It's because he was never supposed to be." Bianca's legs felt weak, fatigue sinking into her bones. "What do you mean? What are you saying?" And in that moment, everything changed. The facade crumbled. A voice broke through the silence. Robert, whispering with effort. "I didn't want you to know. It was to keep you safe." "Safe?" Bianca's hands trembled as she fought back tears. "By lying to me?" "Mia!" Robert gasped, eyes trailing toward his granddaughter hiding behind Alex. "You must protect her. She—" "Enough!" Veronica interjected, her voice fierce and unyielding. But it was too late. Just as the words left her lips, the ground shook once more, something deep within the building giving way. The walls trembled, a deafening roar engulfing them all. The lights flickered violently, and just like that, the world around them was ripped apart. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling, scattering all around as the room erupted into pandemonium. "Get down!" Jake shouted. But it was too late. The last shreds of safety turned to chaos. Bianca grabbed Mia and clutched her tightly, shielding her from the impending storm. The entire building felt like it was collapsing. But amid the chaos, a single thought broke through the noise. The flash drive, the connections, the dark web of secrets that had linked them all. This wasn't just a struggle for survival anymore. It was the awakening of a reality Bianca never knew existed. And as the dust settled and shadows deepened, the truth hung heavy in the air. Who had pushed them all into this web of deceit, and why? The answers felt like they were shattering along with the world around them, leaving Bianca teetering once more on the edge of danger, where every secret could spell disaster. Bianca felt the weight of impending chaos crash down around her as the room quaked. Smoke choked her throat, her heart thundering like a war drum. "Mia!" she screamed, pulling her daughter closer. Each shout echoed through her, blending with, "You have to listen, Bianca!" he toffed, grasping the floor for support. "I'll explain everything, but we need to leave now!" Veronica's sharp gaze pierced through the smoke as she took charge. "Get that laptop. We need all the evidence," she barked, her voice steady amidst the chaos. Jake and Nathan exchanged a quick glance, understanding sparking silently between them. But there wasn't time. With another tremor, the building shook as if it might collapse. Dust falling like confetti. A wall cracked, revealing a flicker of flames just behind them. "Run!" Alex shouted, pulling Mia away. Without thinking, Bianca followed, fear pushing them forward as they hit the hallway. The world felt unreal, a nightmare crawling out of the shadows. They rounded a corner, and Bianca stole a look back. Robert was struggling against the tide of chaos, but she could hear him. "I did it for you!" But the words faded as the chaos swallowed the cries. Emerging outside, the fresh air hit them like a wave. But even in the clarity, the pandemonium simmered. Uniformed officers were descending on the building, sirens wailing like banshees. "Stay together!" Alex yelled, grabbing Mia's hand while looking for cover. Bianca's mind raced. Was anyone safe? She turned to see Robert stagger out, pale and trembling. But determination flickered in his eyes. A fierce light ignited amidst despair. "I'll protect you, I promise," he gasped, facing the shadows behind him. Mama! Mia whimpered, instinct screaming that danger lurked around every corner. Gripping her daughter tighter, Bianca felt the heat rise in her cheeks. It's okay, baby, it's okay. But the looming dread twisted her stomach tightly. Would this never end? This way! Nathan shouted, leading them toward a parked car. They dove inside just as the masked figures burst through the smokescreen. But too late. The vehicle's engine growled to life, wheels screeching. As they sped off, Bianca dared to glance back, disbelief coursing through her. Could they really escape this nightmare? Did you get the files? Veronica demanded as they tore through the streets, urgency electrifying the air. They're safe, Jake assured, glancing at Robert, then back to the road. But Bianca knew more lay beneath the surface. Secrets churned between them like dark waters. As they drove further away, the city became a blur, a whirlwind of chaos behind them. Still, lingering questions hovered overhead. What would happen next? How did their lives unravel so tightly? Where do we go now? Bianca asked, her voice shaky. What's our plan? Robert turned, pain etched on his face. We need to expose the truth. This web you've woven is only the beginning. Expose who? Nathan interjected, eyes darting between them. Everyone's in this. Everyone has blood on their hands. Who can we trust? This is bigger than just us. Silence thickened in the air. Tension clung like a fog. But we can't keep running, Alex whispered, gathering strength. In the pit of her stomach, Bianca felt it. That spark of hope. And yet guilt gnawed away at her. We have to stand united, she murmured. We can't let fear win. If we're to unveil the truth, we'll need every ounce of strength. As the sun began to set, bathing the world in gold, they found themselves standing at a crossroads. Each path fraught with danger and uncertainty. And just before they ventured forth, a thought darted through Bianca's mind. Was there any hope left? With resolve in her heart, she took a deep breath. Whatever happens next, we do it together. And so, as they stepped into the encroaching night, the air thrummed with unanswered questions, setting them on a path that was anything but predictable. Now, before you scroll away, there's something important you need to do. Neither you nor I want you to miss what's coming next. Hit that red button to subscribe now for exclusive stories that'll keep you on the edge. Aplasta ese botón de like ahora. It supports the channel immensely. And flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this mind-blowing finale. Share this video with at least 5 friends who